All right, everyone, welcome to First to Format. So this is my top 8 regional for the Mobile, Alabama regional here just recently. It's been post-SUDA format, so the deck itself has been doing pretty well. I did a good bit of playtesting off it. It's actually based off of the other deck that got 5th place at that 500 person event, so I kind of based it off of that. I did a little bit of twerking and tweaking with it, and I really like where it's at right now. I honestly feel like the deck itself has a good matchup pretty much with every single deck out there right now. I think that every match is winnable. It definitely has a higher skill cap, I would say. Like, yeah, I get that it's Tenpai, but you have to be really careful about how you play these. It's a board breaker deck, so you have to be really careful and cognizant about what you're using and when you're using it. But I won't take up your time too much. I'll get into the deck profile and then I'll talk about matchups and everything, so you guys can feel free to stick around. So starting out here, we got 2 of the Pydra. So I don't run the traditional 3. In playtesting, I found that the 3rd one was actually kind of cloggy, believe it or not. And I'll explain why here in a minute, but I only ran the 2 Pydra. Aside from that, I ran 2 of the Genroku, and this is where the clogginess kind of came in. So I really wanted to see a Genroku in the deck. I wanted to have the ability to add one, and there was more often than not where I would have a Pydra and a Genroku in hand, and it was just another dead card because I really only needed one or the other. I really want to see Pydra over the Genroku, but I need the ability to add the Genroku. So I tried doing 3 with 1, and it just wasn't really working out. So 2 and 2 seem to be the perfect ratio. I'm glad I stuck with the 2 and 2. It came up quite a few times, actually. Next, 2 Fadra. So a lot of people have been cutting this down to 1. I think that 1 is okay. I really like the second Fadra. It came up at least twice in this event. It was a 7-round event, and there were 2 times in particular where I'm glad I had the second Fadra, and it definitely came in clutch. I feel like 2 is correct. You can play at 1. I'm not saying it's not wrong, or it is wrong to do 1. It's just different. But I really liked it at 2, and it helped me for the grind games too, because there are some times you are not able to OTK. You should usually be able to OTK on your turn, but if for whatever reason you can't, the second Fadra really helps with you being able to do that. All right, moving on. And the one of course, Chandra. So that's it for the monster lineup. No hand traps, nothing like that. This is all board breakers. So first spells here, triple upstart. Yeah, sorry I got the nice little comment here. I'm waiting on the other platinum to come in. But triple upstart. 1 of terraforming. 1 of Kaiman. 1 of summoning. 1 of chicken game. So chicken game, it was okay. There were some instances with chicken game that came up where I also run lightning storm. So having used chicken game to draw into a lightning storm didn't feel good. So I'm thinking about potentially cutting the chicken game. Maybe I'm honestly not sure what I'll run. I might just run another board breaker instead of the chicken game. Maybe another forbidden droplet because I only run 2, but we'll get into that. 1 call by the grave. Triple engage. This is where we're going to start our striker package. So we got the triple engage. 1 of drones. 1 of on the widow anchor. 1 of on the afterburner. So afterburner was cool because a lot of times you can bait a lot with the afterburner with their spells and traps. Like you're going against Malice, and a lot of times I can get into afterburner and I can ask them if they're going to use anything when I activate the afterburner, and they have to activate it then, so I can kind of bait their traps out beforehand. So it came up a lot. I really like the afterburner. 1 of jamming wave. So the jamming wave wasn't as common. I didn't use it as much. I'm glad I had it. There were like maybe once or twice where I was able to search it. Mostly I liked having the additional target. In the future, I might go to either a second widow anchor or a second afterburner, but it was okay. All right, so moving on to some like board breaker-esque cards. So we got the triple tactics talents and the double thrust. Thrust was great. I love seeing it. It's at 2 and not 3 because when I had it at 3, there were a lot of times I would draw multiple copies, whether it be I would engage and draw into one or etc. 2 thrust felt really good. So you could bump that up to 3. Like maybe you want to take the chicken game out and add another thrust. You could do it. I just didn't like it in practice. Triple Eclipse. This card was fantastic. Every single Rizio match that this resolved, I pretty much won. Malice, of course, it wasn't the best, but there was once or twice where I was able to set their Malice monsters, the main deck monsters, face down so their Link monsters wouldn't get the buffs, and then I would be able to blow up their field. So that came up a couple times. This was probably the MVP. So MVP of the deck was definitely Ultimate Slayer. Ultimate Slayer was just so good against all matchups. It really helped me break boards, and the fact that you can use it more than once per turn is just insane. All right, so 2 droplet. You could go this up to 3. I didn't like it at 3. I put it at 2. I loved it at 2. There's a lot of times you can use something like you could use like a Sky Striker card or something else where maybe they have what's his name, Desiree on board, and they use Desiree to negate a card where you could just tribute it off with droplet. Like it was pretty good. I really liked the Forbidden Droplet. It played really well into most matchups. So the fact that you can just send whatever card you're using as material is pretty cool. Next, Double Lightning Storm. So this card was great. I mostly used it for back row. Maybe once I used it for main monster destruction, but mostly just used it for back row because, you know, Rizio has their innate destruction protection, so that didn't really come up. You could use it against Malice. I think I might have used it against Malice, not typically. But yeah, and it's searchable off of Thrust. Also, this was the other board breaker card, Raigeki. I did use this against pretty much every matchup, including the Rizio, because I would Book of Eclipse them. Whereas you can't Book of Eclipse a Lightning Storm, but I could Book of Eclipse Raigeki, and that did come up. And then the last card in the main deck is the Harpy's Feather Duster. So that's it for the main deck. The only change, again, I would probably make is the chicken game. I would probably look to swap that out. Moving on to the extra deck before we get into the side deck. So extra deck, so this was cool. I really like the Kagari here. I only run the 2 cards for the striker package, 1 Kagari and 1 Zeke. The Zeke came up 1 time. I'm glad I had it, honestly. When it did come up, it was kind of clutch. The Kagari, and it was against a Rizio matchup, so I was able to banish their detonator for a turn. So I wasn't able to kill them that turn, so I was able to banish their detonator. I had a Book of Eclipse. I know it wasn't Eclipse. I had a Forbidden Droplet, and I was able to just stall them for 1 more turn. And then it got to the next turn, I OTK'd them. But the Kagari was great. All right, next, SP Little Knight. Little Knight, self-explanatory. Erratic Seal, self-explanatory. Hida never came up. I mostly have it for the Promethean. This guy, I pretty much always sent him. You could send Promethean, but I pretty much always sent him off of Slayer. And then with him, I was always sending the Garura for the draw. Muriel Logic, obviously for the Rizio matchup. Garura for the draw. And then now we get into the Synchro cards. So, Kui Belt never came up. Added in the side deck. I might take it out. I don't know. I didn't feel very good. I just wanted it as an option. Black Rose never came up. But again, I wanted to have the option. And now on to the Tenpai cards. So these, I had 2 Bident. Glad I had the 2 Bident because the double Bident really came in handy. I think the original list only ran 1. When I was playing in the tournament, there was 1 match that I won simply because I ran a second Bident. I was able to get the other Bident out and revive the Fadra. Fadra revived the Chandra, and yeah, it was great. It was super clutch. Next, the 1 Transcendent and the 1 of Trident. Those are self-explanatory, but that's it for the extra deck. Moving on to the side deck. So this is where I have some of the changes I'm mostly going to make. The side deck I felt was okay, but it could have been better. So I run 1 Fuelos just for a target. I run 1 Droll again for a target for Crossout Designator. Now I might try and bump up the Droll because Droll is really good in this format. I don't know about Fuelos or not. I don't know how I feel about it. Going second, like yes, you always want to opt to go second, but I like having more options for going first as well. And Droll is a card you could side in going first. just as an option where maybe you don't get what you need, you have a way of shutting them down for a turn. The whole goal is to shut them down for an additional turn if you go first. The one Drago, I never used it. I'm probably going to cut it, honestly, and it wasn't helpful. This car was the second MVP, so Spooky Dogwood was crazy. Not even for time. I would side it in going first, assuming they're going to have me go first. And then on their turn, I would Spooky them, and it just guarantees me another turn, which is all I want. So it's great for going second, because I get a whole bunch of life points, and it's great for going first, because then I get me another turn. Self-explanatory against the Mouse matchup. Lancia absolutely came up in my Mouse matchups, and it was a auto win. Triple of the Impulse. So I was originally siding this in against the Ryziel Fiendsmith matchup, and I found it was kind of lackluster. But siding it into Malice was incredibly good. Like if you hit their cat when they try to summon cat back. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name off the top of my head right now. But if they try to summon cat back from its original banishing effect, like that drastically slows the deck down. They don't get that draw 2 is huge. So that's what I used it on, and it more or less killed their turn. They didn't end on near a strong board because of it. I also ran 2 Heatwave, so I'm probably going to bump this up. I would also side this in whenever I went potentially first, because it gave me another turn. Even if I went second, like I could always just pop the Heatwave, and then they're not going to kill me with what they have. They're not going to end on a board that's going to kill me. They're going to end on a board that's going to do anywhere between 3 and 5k of damage, and I'm going to live another turn. So I might bump this up one just to have the additional card. The only issue with the Heatwave, even if you were to use it going second to get the other turn, is you potentially are giving them access to another hand trap. It's not the end of the world. You can play through it, but it's just something to think about. And lastly, the 2 of Crossout Designator. So Crossout, it didn't really come up, I'll be honest, but in play testing it was pretty good, so I'm going to keep the Crossout. I only ran 2 copies and not 3. I was trying to make room for other things in the extra deck. Most likely though, I'm going to cut the Kuoki Meru Draco, and maybe I'll add another Droll, maybe I'll add another Ghost Sister, I'm not sure. But yeah, so far I like the deck, I love the deck, I think it performed great. As far as the matchups go, I think that, I think the deck did great. So round 1, I went against Ryziel Fiendsmith. Ryziel Fiendsmith, I won the die roll, I opted to go second, and I ended up 2-1-ing him. Pretty much every match I won, I would win round 1, lose round 2, win round 3. And that seemed to be pretty consecutive throughout the whole game. The only games I lost 2 games, and it was to the number 1 player, the number 2 player of the tournament. And it was because I made crucial misplays. It is what it is, man. I let dueling fatigue get to me, and I made some mistakes. But I live, I learn, right? I learn from my mistakes. So one of them was that I had, in this specific instance, I had the Lightning Storm and I had the Chicken Game both in hand. So this is separate from the other instance. And I saw the board. I was like, let me wipe the board out. But first, let me draw a card. So I went to use Chicken Game to draw a card, and then not realizing that I had this face-up Chicken Game that I had no way of getting rid of, and I didn't like draw into a forbidden droplet or anything. So that was one instance. The other instance being that I had wiped their board with the triple Texas thrust in hand, and I should have thrusted first before wiping. Simple mistakes. That being said, I definitely could have won those games, I feel. I don't know if I should, is the right word, but I definitely feel like I could have won. The deck is extremely strong, it's very versatile, and it definitely is great going second. So it was 4 Ryziel Fiendsmith, it was 2 Malice, and 1 Ryziel Pure. My only losses were to Ryziel Fiendsmith, and it was a 2-1 loss. But yeah, it's a great deck. I love it. I want to get this video out here to you guys in case anybody is interested into it. I hope y'all are having a great day, man. I hope everyone's doing well. Anything you guys got going on right now, I hope that you guys, whatever battles you're fighting, maybe you're not telling anyone about it, that you guys are getting through that stuff. Just know that no matter how hard it is at first, eventually the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. All right, y'all. Again, I want to thank y'all for your time, and I hope you guys enjoy this list. Bye.